All right, here she is. So it's mine. I have to take it now, unfortunately. That's right. He's smiling way too much when I said that. 60 something Ford something on an Escalade something. I really pay attention when I buy stuff, guys. I get super detailed. Not true at all. Just take it. Sweet. You don't need a seat. Just sit on the floor.
Yeah, but if you put a seat in there, where are we going to be?
Your head is actually... Your head is actually over the top. You're also 6'8". And I'm
6'8".
And I'm 6'4".
Oh, yeah.
May Zeus himself strike me down if I'm lying.
We are back on the F-scalade, the 62, I think, Ford F100 that I got from my buddy Tom's REFURB. It is on a 2006 Cadillac ESV chassis, all-wheel drive, big LS. Ton of fun. I have been tinkering with it a little bit, but not a lot because I spent a week out there goofing off. And in the last video, I took the Cadillac Firewall and cut it up. I don't think I'm going to use this entire piece, but what I want to try and do is graft the Cadillac Firewall into the Ford Firewall. Some people will just look at this and go, well, why don't you just drill those holes out in the Ford Firewall? Well, the way these steering columns go in, this is a giant cradle, and this cradle bolts into this. I could technically still make it work. I would just have to make all new mounts for that cradle. I think it would be easier to try and graft this in there, and then we can weld bracing and struts to this to make it hold it. The only problem is this section right here is super deep because on a modern car, your firewalls go in a bunch. On old stuff, they don't really have that big of a pocket, I guess you would call it. So I'm not quite sure how we're gonna pull that off. So what we might end up doing is cutting it right there at the edge and then making that from scratch. Not sure yet. We're just kind of doing the old thumb trick. Yeah, okay, maybe. But now it's time to actually get out the tape measure and start cutting some shit. But before we do any of that, I gotta raise this cab up. I don't know if it's gonna go back down. I don't know if I'm gonna keep it up. I have no idea where I'm gonna put where it's gonna ride for the ride height yet. But I know for a fact the cab has to come up for me to get that firewall in there because right now there's just not much room. My old man's coming down. He said he was here messing with it, and he said when he sat in it, his head was almost through the roof. So we might need to do it for that reason anyway. Also, I'm not quite sure yet what the plan is to fix the wheelbase. As you can see, we are 4 inches back from center in the rear. And what you can do, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. You can cut the frame, which I would normally do. But this one, that involves a lot of stuff that's going to need cut and move. So I don't know how bad I want to do that. What you can also do is cut around the sheet metal and then just move it to where it's center. You could also cut the fenders. You could do a bunch of different stuff. Not sure what the plan is there yet. He's going to come down and look at it. But while we're waiting on him, let's start getting a game plan going. All right. Back on the F-scalade. Escalade F100, get it? F-scalade. All right, so you've been bitching for the last week about how the floor is going to be too low. And I said, I think it might be okay. Show me what's going on. You're also 6'8". And I'm 6'8". And I'm 6'4".
Oh, yeah. 6'4", 5".
You got to add
let's
gotta add 3 or 4 inches every now and then.
Is that why they have the cab? The thing on top here, but
you don't need a seat. Just sit on the floor.
Yeah, if you put a seat in there, where are we going to be?
Your head is actually... Your head is actually over the top. Well, maybe it's got more crown in the roof. Maybe it's a bubble roof. Yeah, well, okay. Maybe
well, you know, and you got wheelbase problems, make a bigger cab.
Yeah, I think it's the... Ooh, I actually don't hate that at all.
Raise it up.
Yeah, but you'd have to cut it right there.
Uh-huh.
Which I guess you could.
I've seen you cut cars completely in half.
That's a good point, yeah. That's easier.
Somebody wants to see you do that.
That's easier than cutting it the width ways.
Yeah, and just take this
Slide that back. That straps on
Take
there.
that back and raise this up. So the floor goes down.
Yeah. Gotta go up a little bit with the floor, I think. The thing is, do we make a floor from scratch or do we modify that one?
I'd modify that one.
I think so too. The only thing is it has these, look how big those bushings are.
Uh-huh.
The rubber bushings are like 4 inches thick.
I'd leave it like that. Cut this off. Raise this cab up.
Yeah, but we got to keep it kind of low.
But it's kind of...
Oh, here's what we do. Raise the cab way up. Raise everything way up. Make it easy for making it run. Then we bag it. Because I know you like airbags. Look how low that CRX is. Ooh! He hates airbags more than anybody I've ever met. Usually because they're flat and he bitches at them.
Because, you know, I'm 6'9" or 6'10",
Whatever you are.
now.
Whatever you are. Listen, we're going to stop
down
lying.
in a low car.
We're going to stop lying to the camera. You're 6'6", I'm 6'3". Let's not make jokes anymore. Also have a giant wang.
I'm 6'3",
12 inches.
I'm 6'3", and you're 6'1".
I was measuring something the other day, and it was like that big. I said, God damn, that's 8 or 9 inches at least. There's a girl that commented, she goes, oh, so that's how they measure. I'm going to raise it up, try and get all that shit plugged in, fire it up. Because he had it driving. He had it driving when it was just basically a firewall. He cut everything else off. So I should be able to just plug some shit in and make something happen.
And when you go up with this, see, then you can fix this grab.
Yeah, well, that's, yeah. Well, because nothing's mounted right now. It's just on 4x4s.
Raise this up.
And, yeah. It needs to go at least 2 or 3 inches for the hood to clear.
Yeah.
They make a smaller intake, but the main problem, regardless of how low I want it, the wheels hit when you turn the wheels. So it's got to go up. It's probably going to have to run a different offset front wheel, but it's going to have to go up for that anyway.
That and the thing that really matters if you have to put it on a trailer.
Yeah, they had a hell of a time putting it on a trailer. They had to get a four-wheeler, and they were running into it with the frame, and the four-wheeler was pushing it, and then he was going too fast. My car shipper, Robert, he was going too fast, and he ramped up the back, and then the four-wheeler was in the back of the frame. It was just sitting in the bed.
Sounds about right.
Yep. All right, well, I'm going to cut some shit and raise some shit and get this baby up in the air a little bit more. Do something. Yeah. Yeah. All right, yeah, good times. Well, the old man got here about 2 minutes after I got done recording before, so I didn't even get to work yet. He came up with a good idea. Maybe we stretch the cab right there. Whenever I did this on a 55 Ford, the wheelbase didn't match. I actually cut it right across the firewall and then made the firewall section longer. You can't really do that on a 60s model because that would just be your fender. But, you know, we got options. Not sure what I want to do yet. Either way, floor is definitely too high for me and him, so we're going to have to cut it and raise it anyways. But like I said, I'm not super worried about where it's going to settle just yet. I just want to start getting some stuff plugged in, get it kind of where it's going to be. I want to make sure my brakes have room, and I want to make sure my steering column gets to the steering right there. Let's get to work, damn it. All right, I got the floor cut loose. Now, I think this will go right up to the bottom. I think that's not bad, actually. I need to jack up the front now, but that might work out. Let's see. All right, cab is up. It's really actually not up that much. If I needed to go higher, I could cut the floor and make it go, but that's... If you know me at all, I don't like stuff high, so this is already kind of pushing it. It's already going against my code to raise the thing, but it's still really tight underneath the dash. And I think what I'm going to do is start cutting shit and see what the hell happens, because I can't decide how I'm going to incorporate... Basically, the Cadillac Firewall sinks in a bunch, and this one's flat. So I'm not sure how I want to do that yet. Technically, this one should come way out here and then go down about right here. And I don't know if I want to do that or not. I have all the room in the world right there, so I definitely could. I just don't know if I want to. I also don't know if I can. I don't know if I can pull it off yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all this shit out of here, and then we'll start figuring out what we can do. The good news is with this, I think I said it in my other video, most likely that's going to end up going back together in a bunch of different pieces, because getting it all in there in one piece is almost impossible. But yeah, I'm tired of measuring and thinking, and I'm ready to cut some shit. So let's cut some shit. This firewall had 1,000,000 spot welds in it. Should be free now, I think. Should be. Maybe not. Oh. Damn, there's still one in there. Come on, stop fighting. Shit. Wow, I think I can actually cut this out if I needed to. Ooh, that might help us get some space. All right, let's keep going. I don't really want to cut this dash out, but it's going to be easier in the long run. So the goal is to cut it out where it will be easy to weld back in, if that makes any sense. I know it's easy here. What I could do is cut it right on the inside of this trim piece, and we'll cut right there. So then when I put that trim piece back, it'll be hidden. This I'm just going to go right there. I think that'll be easier. Actually worked out perfect. This cut was amazing. There's an inner weld right there, and I cut it exactly where it was. All right, we're making some room now, baby. See this seam right here? I cut it right along that seam perfectly. So we'll weld that back, and I'll just have another seam. All right, let's keep cutting shit. We are cutting a lot. Didn't know I was gonna spend the whole day cutting shit up, but hey, here we are. All right, I got this cut down pretty much as I can go. If I cut down any more, I'm gonna lose some mounts. I can trim this a little bit more, but I've taken measurements. We need to cut some out of this corner here before we can test fit it, and then we will hold it up there and see where we're at. So let's cut the shit out of this real quick. So I was trimming around here, just getting all cute, not trying to get rid of too much metal. And then I realized this whole inner fender is just rusted off. Yeah, so let's just cut that bullshit out of there. This is a really rough truck. If there's any like Ford lovers out there that are like, you're ruining one, I promise you, he did not start with a super good one. Firewall is damn near about to fall out. Perfect for a chassis swap. Let's keep cutting some shit. Okay, it's time for the first test fit. At a certain point, it doesn't matter how much you measure, you gotta put the shit up there and see what it looks like. I think I've trimmed it plenty, but I have no clue yet. Oh, God. Shit, we're actually closer than I thought. This can be trimmed. I just need that stud for one of the struts. Shit, that ain't bad actually. I'm gonna trim this piece off, because it's not one to fit at all. Technically trim this down here too, but I'm not going to. Not yet anyway. Yeah, let's trim this corner. And then I'm gonna put a couple relief cuts here because we need to change this angle a little bit. Obviously, this shape is different than a Cadillac, but we're looking pretty good is where it's at. I need it like that. There we go. Shit, we are a lot closer than I thought we were going to be. Okay, I'm going to cut this real quick. All right, got it sitting in there. Looking pretty damn good, too. Obviously, I don't care about the inside as much because that'll be covered with carpet. But even out here, it's not bad. Once we get this settled in wherever it's going to be, we can just bring this straight down to tie into it. I can also scoot it this way a little bit more if I have to. I don't know yet. What I'm going to do, this whole deal was like a 14-hour day. Wasn't expecting that. Basically 2 days worth of work. I wasn't expecting that at all. But boy, she's a fighter. And look at all the shit on the floor. I already swept it too. Damn! Look at all the little chunks of shit. And we got more over here. Wow, that's fun. And a big old piece back there. Oh, more in here too. Yay! So, what I'm going to do, one, we're still not sure where our cab is going to be. So I'm not welding anything to this cab, just in case we slide it around. I could technically weld it to the floor, but I'm not going to do that yet either because I'm going to go ahead and put the steering cradle in. That way I know all these bolts line up. Because we've taken so much out of it, some of this stuff can flex. So I don't want to weld it there solid and then have it be, you know, not lining up. So what we'll do tomorrow when we come in is wrestle the steering column in there, get the brakes hooked up, bolt everything up, and then we can kind of shimmy it around where it needs to be. Make sure it's level, make sure all our shit is plugged in. Steering and brakes is really all that matters now. I'm not worried about wiring. Wiring is easy to plug in. Well, not easy, but I mean, it has one place it goes, basically. You don't have to kind of figure all that out. And then what's cool with those steering cradle systems is everything bolts to that. Brake pedal, throttle, all that bolts into there, which is super cool. I actually like that a lot. Normally you'd have a steering column and then you have to mount all that other shit, but that just bolts to that. So very, very cool. I can already tell by looking at it, it is not going to be easy to fight it in there. And you would think, take the firewall piece out, bolt it to the cradle and then put the whole thing in there. Well, you got to kind of wedge the firewall in there. So I don't know that I'd ever be able to do it. I have to do it where it's at. I can already tell I got this zip tied out of the way, but this is going to be a straight shot right there, which I like. And then steering is pretty damn good there too. So sweet. Pain in the ass, but it's a way to do it. You can also, if you ever do these, you can also cut the firewall off of the caddy and then cut all the firewall out of the Ford and then set it on top. The only problem with those, whenever you do it that way, that's usually how I do it. You'll have the interior look like the modern car, which sounds cool, but a lot of times it just doesn't look as good as the old school stuff. So if you want your vintage dash, this is kind of the best way to go about it. Also, if you wanted to, if you weren't trying to plug all this shit back in, you could rip all these wires off and just get a standalone harness. But you'd have to tune your ECU, you'd have to do all kinds of stuff. But you can clean up. Basically, if you buy a kit from a company, like a standalone wiring harness, they're not cheap. They're like $2,000, but it has everything you need, plugs right in, then you're good to go. So that would be a way to do it, but I'm not doing all that. This is a rat rod, baby. We're trying to go cheap. We're going cheap and fun and patina and rust and all kinds of shit. It should be a little lower, not gonna lie to you, but we might have to just do suspension stuff with that because I don't know if I can get the cab any lower and then still be able to get in there. I tell you one thing that we might not need to do. Dad was talking about splitting the cab to make up for the 3 or 4 inch wheelbase difference. Since that sinks in so much, I mean, that went in another 8 inches almost from where the stock firewall is. I don't know that you'd ever need to. We might need to anyway, because it might look better than moving the wheelbase, but I don't know. We could also cut the frame. Wouldn't be the hardest thing. Wouldn't be the first chassis I cut up, but don't really want to very badly. We got to get a shortened drive shaft. We got to take the gas tank out. We got to make sure we don't break any lines, and you have to shorten all your lines. The wiring you can get away with not shortening. You'll just have a bunch of extra. But the brake lines you have to cut down. I'm telling you right now, if we do end up cutting the chassis, this is going to be a short bed. We're not cutting the chassis and only cutting, wow, I just about busted my ass. We're not cutting the chassis and only taking 3 inches out. We'll take 20 inches out or whatever it is to make this a short bed. And then you cut the bed down. Because short beds are cooler than long beds. I like long beds. I just like short beds more. Sweet. I think it's 6 a.m. and I think I started at 4 p.m. So holy shit. I'm going to bed now. We'll be back tomorrow, baby.
The next day.
We are back. Got the shop cleaned up. Well, I got metal out of the way. That way, whenever I'm crawling around here, it's not cutting me in the legs like it was yesterday. We cut a lot of shit yesterday. I was going to jump right in and start installing the steering column, and I had a brain fart, also known as a headache with pictures, or an idea, some might call it. I shouldn't do any of that until I know that my cab is center and squared, because even though I don't think I'm going to weld that in yet, I might weld it in once it's all in there and plugged in and looking good. That way it doesn't move around on me. And if it's crooked, it's not going to line up. Two, if it is welded in there, it's going to be in there forever. Also, I think it needs to go that way about an inch, and that's going to throw off the way that firewall even sits in the truck at all. So before we get too carried away and start getting stuff lined up and in where I want it to be, we need to make sure the cab and the fenders are all square, lined up, wheelbase is right. I'm not worried about the bed. The bed I'm just going to scoot back out of the way because we're going to have to figure that out later. But my fenders are attached to the cab. So wherever these are is where it needs to be basically permanently once we get the firewall in there, because I can't get the firewall mounted and then move the truck around. It won't let me. And I can already tell you by looking at it, the reason I said I think it's an inch off is if you look from up here, my wheel is in quite a bit. And then you come on this side, it's not in at all. So I already know everything needs to go that way. And then I think it looks like the cab or the wheel is too far back in the wheel well on this side. So I need to get all that shit squared away before we do anything. That would have sucked really bad if I was so focused on the firewall that I mounted in there crooked. Let's move some shit around. I know I'm going to have to jack it up to relieve some pressure, because right now it is wedged underneath the floor. Let's do that shit. Then we're going to jump right into the firewall and trying to get all that 10 pounds of shit in the little 1 pound bag we got going on. Let's go. Well, we haven't even started on the firewall, and we already ran into an issue. My core support is hitting the frame. I cannot get it back far enough to the center of the wheel well. I marked it, and I can get it close, but not all the way. Also, I think this damage is gonna hit the tire, so I'm probably gonna have to trim that. But I gotta trim that frame down at least an inch or two. I'm gonna remake all that anyway. The plan is to hopefully get that bad boy in there and then use the stock mounts, because where Tom cut the frame off, he kept it all. Oops. So maybe I might also end up taking that radiator out and not using any of that and just making all that from scratch. I'm not sure yet. I can also get an aftermarket radiator that is a lot smaller than that big bastard, but I'd like to try and use everything that I can. We got to do some trimming, because I cannot get this thing back there far enough. We got the fan going, we got the AC going, and now the air compressor kicked on. Holy shit. Sorry for all the noise. Let's cut some shit. All right, a little bit of a change of plan. I have got this level and squared probably 4 times in the last 3 or 4 hours. Also, I thought that was a 20-minute job when I said it originally. The body is just so rusty. I would get one side right and then the other side would be off, and I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. It just has so much flex in it. It just wants to move all over the place. But right now I got it held up with 8 jack stands instead of 4 like I had before. Have everything perfect, and I might have fixed our wheelbase issue. I did an old school drag car trick. What they would do with the drag cars, they would move the front axles up, because a lot of old school trucks, cars, if you look at them, I'll have Richard add some pictures. You look at the wheelbase and you would think center of wheel well, center of wheel well. It's not like that on a lot of the old ones. They were back too far. A lot of them, they looked shitty, especially in the trucks. 49 to 54 Chevys were some of the worst. You could look at them, and I mean, I'm not joking, the center of the wheel would be here. They just looked wonky. What the drag car guys would do back then, whenever they put straight axles in them, is they would shove the front axle forward, not only because it looks better, but it gets your center of gravity back. I did that. I did it for looks, because I think it looks better. Also, that's technically the center. The wheel normally is back here, but if you measure from the center of there to the center of there, that's the center. Got some real janky plumb bobs, but they work. And I got those lined up perfect. Everything is square. Everything is level up and down. Took way longer than it should have. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld this to it. I'm not going crazy. I'm not like mounting it yet, but I do want to weld at least my floor to the cab so it doesn't move around on me, because if I just step in there to start messing with the firewall, everything can shift wherever it wants to. Before I do that, I'm going to double check my bed. I don't really need to mount the bed yet, but I want to because I might have fixed my, oh shit. Yeah, we might have already fixed that. That looks pretty damn close right there. So let me check this. And if I have to, if I actually went too far forward, I can come back just a little bit more or go forward just a little bit more. But let's see. I thought originally the difference in the wheelbase from the Caddy to the truck was, I thought it was like 6 inches. It was like 124 to 130. The Caddy's 130. I thought the 60 Ford was 124, I think it was. Well, this is a 1964. I found out from the trim. And in 64, they changed that. 64 to 66 is 128. So we have a 128-inch wheelbase going on a 130 chassis, which is pretty damn close. You know, 4 or 5 inches, you have to cut stuff. 1 or 2 inches, you can kind of just, you know, give it a little smudge here or there. But let's see. I don't know if it's going to line up or not because the bed's kind of not even sitting there. But let's do that real quick before we weld anything, because I can still move this a little bit each way if I need to. Yeah, let's mess with the bed. Wasn't trying to do any of this right now, but this needs to happen before we get too crazy with the firewall. So let's keep going. Holy shit, wasted half a day already. So yeah, good times. I have a feeling this is going to be one of those videos that goes up at 3 or 4 p.m. on Friday. And I'm going to be working till 6 a.m. But who knows? Let's go. Well, I got about 30 seconds in trying to get the bed squared away and realize the frame needs cut. So let's cut some shit. All right, I've been fighting this bed for way too long, so I finally got it lined up and square with the cab, and then I said, screw it, I'm going to drill holes in it and bolt it to it. And I had to put spacers in there because it can't be right against the cab. I mean, you technically could, I've done it before, but I need the gap for this. Let's see, is it still squared up? Yeah, looks good right there. Bada bing! Okay, now I know that gap is perfect, and the trim lines up perfectly. Okay, I just about busted my ass again. Holy crap, I'm falling a lot. I gotta double check everything to make sure it's square. This is really close as far as the wheelbase back here, but I think the cab might have moved up there. So let's double check that real quick, and then hopefully we can weld some shit. All right, be honest with you. When I started work today, I assumed we were going to go right to the firewall, and it's been 8 hours, and I'm still not at the firewall. We basically have the cab and the truck mounted, or the bed mounted. I'm going to wait on the bed just in case I need to move it, but the cab is perfect, fenders are perfect. The bed's pretty damn close, but I'm not going to weld it yet. But I'm welding the cab. We're not going crazy, but we're going to make sure it doesn't move. All right, haven't talked to you for probably 4 or 5 hours. This was a giant pain in the ass. It wasn't cut nearly enough, and the cab wasn't cut enough. I could get it in there, and it would sit, but once I bolted it up, steering column doesn't sit in the center of the cradle. It's off to the side. So I got it all up in there, was happy, and then I came over here and looked. I swear the steering column was like another 6 inches that way. So I had to cut a bunch of stuff down, beat the hell out of it, get it moved around, and then as I was doing that, I kicked the cab over that way, and my tack welds kind of showed me where it was going, but it still moved the front end because this kind of came back. So I had to go mess with that a little bit. Not excited about it. I have some self-tapping bolts holding it in right now. Also, I do have my steering hooked up, which is huge. We do have a steering column, very, very nice. And then my brakes are gonna go right there. The only reason I haven't put my brakes in yet is because I want to tie the firewall into the cowl right here. I'm gonna do that. I don't see any way of getting any of the wiring plugged in and a battery put in it yet because of how much time it is. I think it's 5 a.m., 5:30. It's super late for Friday. Let's find out together. Actually, I don't know. Oh, great. It's almost 6. Son of a bitch. Okay, we're going to weld some shit real quick and then call this a video. I'm going to grind paint off of there and paint off of there, and then I'm just going to put a piece of sheet metal right across there for now. And we'll clean all this up later, but that will get me basically where I needed to be. Also, I wanted to make sure the firewall was flattish. It was kind of leaning back there at first, so that was fun. But yeah, all right, let's weld some shit. Oh, what a long freaking week. Okay, let's see. I should be able to let down all my straps now. She's sitting on her own. Oh, it's pretty solid too. All right, let's see if I can't get the brakes hooked up. Let's see, wiring goes right here. Oh, come on. Come on, you bitch. There we go. Come on. Now this, that goes there, and this, oh God, oh God, oh shit, shit, that thing's bent, and now it's probably broke, but hey, it's out of the way. Come on, oh God, there we go. Oh, God. Why are you fighting me so much? Oh, it's because it's brake lines and they're solid. Oh, shit. Are we stuck on something here? Brakes are on! Sweet! And then this should go right here. Something like that, maybe? What the hell is that? Oh, that runs underneath the frame. I didn't even know I had that. So this might need to go up here more, actually. Sweet! We have steering and we have brakes. I gotta hook the pedal up, but it's like 7 in the morning now. I gotta get this video done. Cool! All right. I am done. Man, we got a lot of shit done. Can't believe I got the cab mounted too. That's huge. We still need to mount the front end, but I want to figure out what I'm going to do for a radiator before I mount it because my mounts will be in the way if I don't use the stock radiator. Cool. All right, we'll be back. Check it out. I realized I didn't show it from this angle last night because it was, well, it wasn't last night. It was 7 a.m. But got a couple hours of sleep. She is mounted and it's square. And it's kind of ugly out here, but we can fix that. We'll make all this kind of transition a little bit better. For now, I just want it kind of holding shit together so I can figure out exactly what it's going to be. I would normally, if I knew everything was perfect, I would start welding all this solid right now, but I'm going to wait just in case something needs tweaked or anything like that. I want to make sure all of my stuff will plug in where it needs to. Have to make a couple more mounts underneath. I did not realize we had all this wiring running down the frame. So I need to double check on that, make sure that's all good and plugged into stuff it needs to be. But overall, extremely happy. That was a pain in the ass. Cool. Also, I got the column is tilted way up. Hold on. There you go. See, that's better. That's more like it. Cool. Ha! Awesome. I'm sure I'm going to have to adjust that a little bit more, but as hard as that was to get that damn thing in there, we are good for now. Sweet. Very, very happy with where we got. Took way longer than I thought it was. I thought that was going to be just a couple hour project. That was like 2 or 3 days. Shouldn't be, but we needed to mount the cab. The cab was all over the place and crooked, and it's so rusty that nothing wanted to stay in place. So, I mean, you just kind of touch the fender, the whole thing would shift over. She's a rough old girl, but that's what's perfect for a chassis swap. Usually whenever I do a chassis swap, I'll do it because the body that I'm using is just so bad. It's basically, you're gonna cut all that shit out anyway, which is pretty much what this was, so it's perfect. Firewall, whenever we started cutting it, it just fell apart. So the original Firewall is just, I mean, but we are starting to get some structure back. The more pieces that we tie in from the Cadillac, the stronger it'll be. Yeah, very, very happy. Also, when we mounted our cab and scooted it up a little bit to kind of give it an old school look, we almost fixed our wheelbase problem where, you know, the wheels weren't centered. This still needs to go back just a little bit, and we got a couple different ways we can fix that, but we're not worried about that right now. I want to get everything plugged in. I want to start this thing. I want to hear it run so we can find out if maybe there's a cut wire somewhere. Maybe there's a bad, you know, computer module. I have no idea. Maybe there's still missing grounds. There's always 25 grounds that you have to redo on a chassis swap. So I want to get all that stuff plugged in, make sure it's working. What's super cool, since the brake lines never got disconnected and the steering never got messed with, just getting those to the Firewall, I already have steering and I already have brakes. That's amazing. We don't have to make anything from scratch. It's just already there. Perfect, perfect. Got a lot of stuff done on this video. I was gonna go play with my 67 Cadillac I got because I got a bunch of parts in for it. I can't stop on this now. I want to be able to plug stuff in and make something happen. I want to at least hear a noise from the engine whenever I plug the battery in. So we're gonna probably stay on this. If you're liking these videos, my next video on Tuesday will be on the F-scalade as well. So stay tuned for all of that. If you are not subscribed, please hit that button now. For the coolest merchandise on the planet, go to Caseyscustoms.com. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, comment, all that good shit they tell you at the end of videos. Check out some of my other videos. Peace, I love ya. Toothless Customs out. I swear I'm fixing this. I chipped my tooth way too long ago. Getting it fixed. Love you, bye.